Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today, pulling insights from some source material titled Tips for a Happier Life, which is an excerpt from the Behavior Ops Manual by Chase Hughes.
Right. Think of this as a focused mission. We're, digging into these pages to find the most practical strategies and shifts in perspective that this source claims can actually make you happier and, well, feel more fulfilled.
And it's not just fluffy ideas, is it? This material presents some really compelling concepts looking at habits, mindsets, and even bringing in brain science.
Hmm.
It makes a strong case that feeling satisfied isn't random. It's deeply tied to our daily actions and how we feel inside.
Exactly. It connects that internal state of satisfaction directly to conscious choices and deliberate practices.
So let's jump in then. The source starts by identifying something it calls calm enjoyment. It sets this up as like a universal trait you see in successful people.
Yes, calm enjoyment.
Yeah.
The definition here is key. It's the pleasure you get specifically from finishing tasks that just have to be done. Not the fun stuff, but the obligations.
And it contrasts this pretty sharply with the alternative. People who tend to be maybe less successful or generally dissatisfied often put off those necessary tasks.
Right.
And when they finally get around to them, they're anything but calm. They're rushing, stressed, maybe even feeling resentful about having to do it.
It's true. And the source points out this habit often starts way back, maybe when you were a kid avoiding homework. Remember that?
Oh, definitely.
Even if it was only like a short assignment, something else felt more immediately enjoyable, so the necessary task got shoved aside.
I absolutely remember that feeling, procrastination.
Many of us do. And this builds over time, according to the source. We get really good at finding excuses for neglecting necessary things, whether it's paying bills, doing chores, making healthy choices, or, tackling a difficult learning curve.
We avoid the doing and we lose that chance for that calm feeling of completion.
Exactly. We lose the potential reward.
So the source claims that focusing on this one habit, finding calm enjoyment in the process of getting those necessary things done, is foundational. Like changing this can be critical for shifting your whole life and building other positive habits.
It really highlights it as a core leverage point. It's not about suddenly loving every single chore or obligation. That's probably unrealistic for most people.
Yeah, I'm not going to love doing taxes.
Right. It's more about cultivating a state where you can calmly engage with what needs to be done and experience a quiet satisfaction from completing it.
Yeah.
That sense of accomplishment, even for small necessary tasks, is powerful.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the source introduces this idea it calls the magic pathway to a better future. It lays it out like a chain reaction. Desire leads to dopamine, which leads to reward, which leads to belief, and that equals habit.
Right, that pathway. It illustrates how our brain's reward system links actions to reinforcement. The source uses a powerful, maybe even a stark example mentioning drug addiction. Not as a moral failing, but as a system where the dopamine reward pathway is completely, hijacking control. It shows just how potent and potentially unruly this internal mechanism is if we're not directing it consciously.
That's a heavy way to put it, but it makes the point about the system's power. And that leads into this truly fascinating concept of our three selves, past, present, and future.
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really interesting and I think very practical. The source argues that a lot of our current unhappiness stems from what it terms present selfishness.
Present selfishness, okay.
This is when your present self makes choices that your future self is absolutely not going to thank you for.
Like staying up way too late the night before something important or
Yeah.
eating that whole pizza.
Exactly. Things like that. Or, putting off starting an exercise routine, even though future you would really benefit. It felt good or easier in a moment.
Yeah, that hits close to home for me. I think we all battle that present selfishness sometimes. So the core idea here is that successful and happy people are constantly prioritizing their future self's needs over whatever the present self wants right now.
Exactly. It flips the script.
Yeah.
Instead of the present self calling the shots based on immediate gratification, your present self should act as a butler for your future self.
A butler. I like that analogy. Makes it concrete. What are some examples of this butler behavior?
They're often small, simple actions, things you might already do sometimes. Setting up the coffee maker the night before so future you wakes up to ease.
Love that one.
Laying out your medicine or clothes for the morning. Taking just a few minutes to tidy your home before bed so future you doesn't wake up to chaos.
Reduces that morning friction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Getting enough sleep by deliberately putting your phone away and maybe reading instead. Starting to save even a little money. Keeping a journal of your progress.
Little things that add up.
Taking that first step towards exercise for future health.
Yeah.
Investing even a small amount of time daily into learning something you'll want to know later. It's all about service to that future self.
So it's all about making future you's life easier, smoother, better, setting them up for success.
Yeah, precisely. It's about creating a kind of harmony across your personal timeline. Your past self made choices, good or bad, that allow your present self to exist and function now.
Okay.
Your present self feels gratitude for that past self and actively works to set up your future self for success. And then your future self will, hopefully, feel gratitude for the effort your present self put in.
It's like a continuous loop of responsibility and gratitude.
Right. And the source makes this surprising claim that this practice can actually become, well, addictive in a good way.
Addictive. How does that work?
It suggests a positive feedback loop. You experience the positive results of your past self's actions, like waking up to that coffee you already made, thanks to last night's self. You feel gratitude. And that positive feeling motivates you to do something similar for your future self. It taps back into that dopamine pathway we just mentioned.
Ah, the reward.
The reward of seeing the positive impact for your future self reinforces the habit of being their butler. It feels good to treat your future self well.
That's fascinating, turning a potentially disciplined task into something driven by gratitude and anticipation. So the big takeaway here is to view every action, maybe not every single one, but many actions, through the lens of its effect on your future self. Will they be grateful or frustrated? Does it align with the life and goals they want to have?
It's a fundamental shift in perspective that reorients your daily decisions, asking, what would future me want me to do right now?
Okay, speaking of gratitude and that feeling towards the past self, let's zoom in on the power of gratitude itself. The source dedicates significant time to this, calling it incredibly healthy and something research strongly supports.
It does. And the benefits listed are pretty compelling. Reduced stress, better sleep quality, and a big boost in emotional awareness.
Yep.
Things most people would probably say they want more of.
Absolutely. And the source goes into some detail about the neuroscience behind it, which is really interesting. It touches on how gratitude involves specific parts of the brain, right? Like areas associated with processing emotions and making value judgments.
Yes, it highlights that practicing gratitude daily can actually trigger the release of those feel-good chemicals, dopamine and serotonin.
The happiness chemicals.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
They reinforce pathways linked to happiness and contentment. It also points to how gratitude activates areas of the brain, the limbic system, that help regulate emotions, memories, and even basic bodily functions.
It even mentions findings from studies, like one showing people who kept gratitude journals experienced less physical discomfort
Yeah, fewer pain symptoms.
and were more proactive about their health. And another linking gratitude practice to better sleep regulation through the hypothalamus.
The research seems to back up the idea that gratitude isn't just a nice feeling. It has tangible impacts on our physical and mental state. It's not just thinking positive.
Right, it seems to do something physically.
The source also notes that practicing gratitude can directly help manage stress and negative emotions. It strengthens the part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, that help control feelings like worry, guilt, and shame.
So it actively counteracts the negative stuff.
It essentially trains your mind to respond more calmly and fosters positivity. It helps build empathy, too.
And there's this great line from the source referencing Alex Korb's work, something about how you can't focus on both positive and negative information at the exact same time.
Exactly. It's like your brain has limited bandwidth for attention. Gratitude allows you to consciously choose to direct your attention towards the positive. You're steering the ship.
It's an active mental shift then. And the source offers simple practices you can use daily, right? Like journaling, keeping a gratitude jar.
Or writing gratitude letters to people who have impacted you.
Yeah.
Things that don't take a huge amount of time, but can have a big impact if done consistently.
So it's not just a quick mood booster, it can have broader effects, potentially helping people dealing with things like sleep issues, substance abuse, or eating disorders by improving their overall mood and sense of well-being.
Yeah, the ripple effects can be significant. It even notes the importance of acknowledging and appreciating your own successes, big or small. That internal gratitude builds resilience.
Being grateful to yourself, not just others.
And the source gives a strong call to action. Make gratitude a daily habit. It suggests this practice can become so ingrained it's outwardly visible and even creates positive, like intuitive feelings or gut feelings in others around you.
That connection to others is a powerful idea. Which brings us, I think, to the next point from the source, enjoyment. It describes the psychological state of enjoyment as incredibly magnetic.
It's something you can apparently spot in someone from a distance, the source says. It's a palpable energy. You just know when someone is genuinely enjoying themselves.
And that visibility is linked directly to charisma, isn't it? People are just naturally drawn to those who genuinely seem to be enjoying themselves, enjoying the moment.
Yeah, the source claims this makes an enjoying person more influential, more easily followed. People want to go along with them.
Interesting phrasing.
It calls enjoyment potentially the most obvious social magnet there is. And that this isn't new. It's something fundamental you could recognize across different cultures and even back in ancient times.
So it's like a core human thing.
Seems to be.
Hmm.
A key to influence and persuasion. The more you cultivate enjoyment, the more persuasive you become, is the argument.
So how do you actually cultivate this? It can't just be about having fun all the time.
No. And the source suggests a simple practice. Setting reminders to stop and ask yourself, how could I increase my enjoyment right now? And it specifically contrasts this with asking negative questions like, why am I feeling so down? Or what's wrong with this situation?
That simple question directs your focus differently, puts you in a proactive state.
Exactly. And the source is clear. This enjoyment isn't dependent on external events or things going perfectly.
Right.
That's more like excitement, maybe.
Right.
True enjoyment comes from your perspective,
Mhm.
the ability to step back, zoom out, see the bigger picture, allowing you to find enjoyment in almost any activity or situation, even mundane ones.
It's not just being happy because something fun is happening. It's finding a state of enjoyment regardless of external circumstances, like finding the good, even in the routine.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
an internal state you can cultivate. And the source suggests that deliberately setting goals to level up your enjoyment not only makes your own life more pleasant, but significantly boosts your authority and power in interactions.
How so?
It leads to people genuinely wanting to follow you, rather than just respecting a position of authority or title. It's authentic influence.
Influence coming from an internal state of positivity rather than force or title. That's a compelling thought. Finally, the source wraps up by discussing composure, calling it the absolute foundation of influence.
Yeah, this ties a lot of it together. Who you are is drastically more important than anything you say. That's the core message here.
Wow, okay, so what is composure then?
Composure is defined as the state of mind where a person is in complete control of themselves, but not in a tense way.
Right, it's not about being rigid or unemotional. It's described as a calm, mature presence, sitting comfortably, calmly engaged in the moment, having no hidden agendas, just being present and okay.
Yes, and the source lists magnetic qualities of people with composure. They come across as beautifully human, they fully embrace the present moment, they show genuine respect for others, they mean what they say.
They're authentic.
They don't intentionally cause offense, and crucially, they simply do what needs to be done without drama or fuss.
Doing what needs to be done without fuss that links back to the calm enjoyment idea we started with.
It absolutely does. It all connects. Composure appears outwardly as a lack of stress, and the source makes the point that stress fixates your mind on everything you don't want to happen.
Spins you out.
While anxiety is described almost like a physical habit, the body's ingrained protection response, muscle tension, cortisol release, faster heart rate, your body learns to be anxious.
And you can't just use logic to talk yourself out of that kind of worry, right? The source suggests the brain trying to figure out how to stay safe just ends up magnifying the potential problem. It gets stuck in a loop.
Exactly. Logic often doesn't touch that deep-seated physical response. So the technique presented for building composure isn't just about changing habits, but fundamentally changing how we think. It's about mental rehearsal and repetition.
Mental rehearsal. So, thinking through successful future events may be a meeting, a difficult conversation, a presentation in your mind beforehand, visualizing it going well.
Yes, mentally rehearsing those successful outcomes trains your entire brain, including what's called the reticular activating system, or RAS.
Okay, the RAS, what does that do?
That's the part of your brain that acts like a filter, deciding what information from your environment is important enough to pay attention to. It filters out the noise.
Ah, the filter. So you're training your brain to filter for things that match the successful scenario you're rehearsing, creating almost like future memories.
That's the concept presented. By mentally practicing the successful outcome, you're giving your body a preview, like a sample, of that future state. It helps align your internal chemistry and energy towards that outcome.
Shifting from worrier to creator.
That's the idea. This shifts you from being primarily driven by worry about potential problems to being more focused on creating desired outcomes. You're programming your brain for success.
But I bet that's not easy. The source probably acknowledges that your body, being used to the old anxiety or worry habits, will fight to go back to that familiar programming. It's comfortable, even if it's uncomfortable.
It absolutely does. It takes conscious effort and repetition to build these new neural pathways and override the old ones. Your system wants to maintain homeostasis, even if it's a stress state.
Makes sense.
And true composure, as the source defines it, isn't just switching from a state of anxiety to calm in the moment, like taking a deep breath. That's useful, but this is deeper.
Okay.
It's cultivating an inherent, underlying feeling of calm, regardless of external pressures.
Yeah.
It's your baseline state.
Wow. Okay, so pulling all these incredible ideas together from the source material, cultivating calm enjoyment in necessary tasks, living as a butler for your future self, harnessing the brain rewiring power of gratitude, leveraging the magnetic social force of enjoyment, and building that foundation of composure through mental rehearsal. That's quite a toolkit.
They form a powerful, interconnected system, really, showing how cultivating specific internal states and consistent practices can fundamentally impact your happiness and influence, just as the source lays out.
Yeah.
It's about taking deliberate control of your internal world and your daily actions. Less about reacting, more about creating. Thanks for joining us at The Deep Dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shaking things up.